Welcome to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast, a weekly conversation with women who found their home in the Mojave Desert. I'm your host, Dawn Davis, and this is episode number 9. If you're a first-time listener, we welcome you, and if you're a returning listener, we welcome you back. The Desert Lady Diaries website, which is desertladydiaries.com, is a great place to get a little more detail about each of our guests and to catch up on past episodes if you've missed any. My guest this week is Kooyman, an actor, mime, and painter who tells us how a mime ends up in the desert, how her delicate constitution is adapting to the harshness of the desert, and some of the challenges of settling into small-town life. It's Desert Lady Diaries. Thanks for coming back to another episode. I am here today with Kooyman, who is a mime artist, actress, and a budding muralist currently hiding out somewhere deep in the California desert. Her monthly expenditure on 70 SPF sunscreen is astronomical, and she prefers to wear dark colors, and she's wearing dark colors right now, I can attest to that, and she has no idea why she lives here. But we're going to ask some probing questions today and find out why. Welcome, Haley.
Good to be here.
Yeah, that's right. A mime wouldn't really do well on a podcast, would they?
I will do my best.
Okay, I know you will. So as I ask everyone, how long have you been a permanent resident of the desert?
Ooh, since April of last year, which gives me 16 months? Mm-hmm. If we were counting like people count children.
Yeah.
Like babies.
Yeah, a little bit more than me then, yeah. Great time to come, springtime, just before the summer.
Yes.
It sucks you in with that really nice weather and then punches you in the face with the heat.
Exactly.
So tell me about your very first encounter with the desert.
I came to know a Purifoy in 2007.
Oh, wow.
And I had no idea what Joshua Tree was.
Okay.
And we came on a field trip from Idlewild Arts Academy on a big old bus to Noah Purifoy. And it was like this alien place. It was the first time I'd ever sketched anything. I remember that with the bowling balls. I sketched the bowling balls. It was terrible. That was my first time. And then I didn't come back for a good long while till I did some drugs. When I was 20 or so.
There you go. And that's a thing here.
People come out
to do that. Although, was it Kesha that just put out a record? I took a picture of the Hollywood Reporter that she was quoted in that said she was
totally
sober. So people think that's a thing out here. And I guess for some people that is a thing.
I'm over it.
Okay.
You do it once. You're early 20s.
You've had your experience. Okay.
Now it's a very different place.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Then how did you come to be living here?
Well, over at the High Desert Cultural Center, Howard, who raised me very much as an artist, needed somebody to star in a musical. And he called me.
And where were you when he called you?
I had an apartment in Los Angeles, and I spent a total of 2 nights in my 4-month sublet, which told me very clearly I did not want to be in Los Angeles. I found every excuse to be somewhere else.
Oh, wow.
I wasted a lot of money, and I learned a valuable lesson about myself.
Right.
So when he said that, I started commuting out here from various couches across the Southern California area.
Couch surfer?
I was couch surfing just to not stay in the apartment that I was subletting. And I spent time with the community. We were a bit of a drinking cast, so we would go out to the saloon after rehearsal, and I met all of these people. And then when my lease went up, I thought, well, where do I go now? I'll move to the desert.
So you didn't have what I would call sometimes the spiritual experience that some people have coming out here and just feeling a sense of the area and thinking there's something about this place, I need to be here.
I wouldn't call it spiritual, more gut. It's more gut-oriented rather than ether-oriented. Okay. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Yeah, and I think for myself, speaking for myself, I think it was a little bit of both. There was definitely a feeling coming over that hill into Yucca Valley. The way I describe it is something was telling me to stand up and pay attention. So I guess that could almost be kind of both. My head was feeling something and my body was feeling something. Kind of interesting. You came out here and you did your show, and so you found some of your people there, and you found some of your people at the saloon. Yeah. What other kind of things? I mean, did you know anybody else when you moved here besides Howard?
Yeah, actually, my friends moved out around the same time to open Frontier Cafe down in Yucca Valley, and it was a night we were up at Pappy's, and I asked them, so you're doing this? You're moving here? They said, yeah. So I said, oh, in my brain, I can move here too. If they can move from LA, if they can leave that world behind and move here, fine, I can do it. And I trusted their instinct as I was questioning. So I had them out here, and that helped. I had a bit of a landing pad. People that I've known, that I've camped with, that I've done all these things with, they were here. I had that, and I had the theater.
You've got here and you found a place to live. Was it your own place? Were you, rooming with someone? How did that whole process happen?
When I decided I wanted to move here, it was, March 29th. And I decided every day I would come out here and I would sit at the saloon and I would ask everybody, who's renting? What do you know? Where can I live? I want to move here. And a bar back, Becca, said, "Oh, I know a man. His name's Jim Queen. He has a ranch. Sometimes he rents out trailers." I said, "Great, give me Jim Queen's number." And I called up Jim Queen. The next day I came out, he showed me this trailer. I call it Jim Queen's Ranch. Queen Acres is a redneck commune.
Okay.
That's what I call it. It has all of the tropes of your standard neo-hippie commune, except everybody... I don't like to use that term. Everybody's a redneck and half of them were felons, and it was wonderful. It was gorgeous. We'd get together for coffee in the morning and watch Fox News. And so he takes me into the trailer, and it's kind of shoddy, but there are walls and there is a roof and there is a bed.
And probably reasonably priced.
Very reasonably priced. Just a handshake and an envelope of cash, and that was it. It was mine. Boom.
Perfect.
And I was here.
Were there any animals at the ranch?
Oh, tons.
Okay, all right.
There's the horse, many dogs. We had chickens at some point. There's an owl that lives there that overlooks them. They sort of treat it very spiritually, which is odd to see. And then always people coming in and out with whatever animals they've come with. There's a constant stream of people through that ranch every day.
It sounds to me like it's kind of a known... or like maybe an underground known place where you can go and find a place to hang your hat for a week, a month, a couple of months.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I just met somebody. Oh, I lived at Queen Acres 3 years ago.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. It sounds like the place up in, is it Pioneertown or Pipes Canyon? Not Rimrock.
The Boulder?
Garth?
Yeah, people land there.
Right, exactly. And then they just kind of help out around the place, pay maybe a little room and board, as I understand it, and, dig in, as it were. These were some of the ways that you found your community, knowing a couple of people before you moved, but not really having a big community. Now, how would you describe your community of people?
Varied.
Yeah.
Very varied. I'm friends with all the artists in town, definitely. Spend a lot of time with the people who perform, and my partner is a musician, so I spend a lot of time with the musicians. But then having lived on that ranch with these people who have nothing to do with that at all, I also have this other community of people who just live here. The daughter's a real estate agent, and she sells the houses, and he breeds the horses, or that people have nothing to do with the artistic community, which is nice and very refreshing to go home and not have to talk about my existential crisis about whatever I'm creating on stage. It doesn't matter. It's just like, would you like a natty ice? And then...
Right. Let's see. So when you moved here, did you find anything surprising or challenging? And some things that you might look back on and say, wow, I can't believe I dealt with that or was able to manage that?
I think initially me moving here made a bit of a splash in this community. I'm an odd bird. That's weird to say about yourself, but I'm like this pale, vaguely regal, attractive, young, avid drinker who isn't a party girl but really likes beer. And there was a lot of chit-chat and a lot of people trying to ask me out and a lot of people taking that in a direction that was not kind. So when I first moved here, I had to do a lot of mitigating of the community. With some people I would turn down just because I wasn't open to dating them, and they created quite a stir. So that was something I don't know if I could have handled it better. I just wish I wouldn't have had to go through the 3 or 4 months of that. But I suppose that'll happen in any small town when a newcomer who's very visible and amiable comes in. Does that answer that question?
I think so. It sounds like you faced some small town issues, and that's different coming from, I'm not sure if you have lived in a town this small before, but for me, I lived in a small town growing up in Jersey, but I don't feel like it was as small as this. I graduated in a class of 360 people. So I'm sure they don't have a graduating class of 360 people here. I can't be sure.
Do we have a high school here?
Well, not even in Joshua Tree, Yucca Valley or 29. But yeah, it is a small community, and I've had that conversation with a couple of other people from a dating perspective. It makes it a little more difficult, or you just have to be more adult about it if you date, and if it becomes more serious and then it ends, because inevitably you found that person in a circle of community that you are with on a regular basis.
Yes.
And you are bound to run into that person again. And if they're seeing someone or you're seeing someone else, you're all going to be in the same place. So you just need to be able to manage that, and just be as cordial and agreeable and adult as you possibly can. Yes. And then there are some that cannot do that. And then you just, like you did, find a way to manage and mitigate the best that you can. And that's all that you can do.
Exactly so.
That's all that you can do. How about with the landscape or your living arrangements? Was there anything that was different or challenging? I remember the winter coming and you were like, I'm freezing. And I'm like, come over.
Yeah, it was. So I lived in that trailer, which is essentially a metal box. And in the summer, the swamp cooler wasn't great. So then I was baking. I pulled my mattress into the living room to lay in front of the swamp cooler because there was no being in the back of the trailer. I made it through that, and then I thought, oh, how glorious. Winter's going to be so great. Wham! No heating. Once again, I'm now in a freezer box. And I remember painting Christmas presents in front of like a propane camp heater, which you should definitely not have inside, but it was all I had. So just shivering, all bundled up, trying to paint. I was freezing. It was miserable. It was so bad. But I made it.
You made it.
And now I have real walls.
You moved to a different place, which is great. And quiet, in a very quiet place now,
yes.
Right? Yes.
We're in the middle of nowhere.
As I experience you as a person, because we have worked together at the High Desert Cultural Center with some things, I see you as a very creative person and a very imaginative person. Do you think that has changed since you moved here, been more informed by the landscape or just the general being in the desert? What would you say about your creativity since you've come?
I think being out here makes me want to work alone, and that might just be because you have to drive so far to get anywhere. Well, you don't, but I do.
Well, I know that we know a couple of actors that drive from 29 that go down to Palm Springs and work at Palm Canyon Theater and things like that, but I'm just too, like you, I'm too lazy to get in the car and drive 45 minutes to rehearse for 6 weeks when I can drive less than a mile.
Yeah, so I think that's where the painting came up, is because I can do that alone, and I don't have to deal with anyone else's schedule, usually, in order to do that. So that part of me has stepped forward being here. And I think as a performer, I've almost taken a step back. How do I say this? I don't think this is not a theatrical society, and this community has not yet been trained to want to go to theater. And I don't think they have any idea what theater can be. Right. We could put up another production of Grease the musical, but to me, I'm not particularly interested in that, right. And I don't expect them to be either. I think that's just taken a step back because there isn't quite the outlet to do much of the level of work that I want. Almost more, I would guess, edgier, a little more experimental. Probably. Yeah. Or at least a little more physical. Or maybe, I don't know, something that no one has seen before. Right. That's it. I think that's a struggle in a lot of places that do have community theater. Mm-hmm. They're trying to stay afloat with X number of dollars a year, and they feel like, well, if we don't bring in some well-known musical that everybody can identify with, no one's going to show up and buy tickets. Yes. And I feel encouraged that with the number of artistic people that are moving here, that will change. I think it's going to take a while, but
I think it will change. And I'm hoping for that because, yeah, I like to dig a little deeper and do some darker, dare I say, edgier, more real life drama kind of stuff. Not so much light and fluffy by comparison.
You don't think Wizard of Oz is deep and dark? No.
It's one of my favorite films.
Yes. But there's only so many times I can...
Exactly.
I see that. I do hope it will change as well. And I hope to also be at the forefront of that.
Right.
I think it's also about not treating theater like it's untouchable, because that doesn't make an audience member want to come in. And also to create theater that reflects the community that we're in, rather than something that they don't have anything
they can't relate to. They don't. Yeah.
That I'm interested in, because this is a very specific, odd community, and there are written pieces of work, and there are works that could be created that reflect these things that we know about our lives. We'll get there.
We will. We will. From a living perspective and a life perspective, do you feel like you've found some things here that would keep you here? Well, or do you feel it's too early in your life to make those kind of decisions?
This is the first time I've lived anywhere for longer than 9 months. I'm usually even 2 months. Every 2 months or 4 months, I'm gone. And so this is the first place as an adult that I've really put down some roots. I have a house. I have a partner. I see the same people every day. I'll always be at Pappy and Harriet's on Monday night. So in that sense, that's neat. Will I stay here forever? I don't think so. Just because I don't do so well with the elements.
Yeah.
I am not built to withstand this heat. That's a lame excuse. Maybe I'm just scared that I'll stay here.
Maybe. Where do you think you would flourish more and things would be more agreeable? Is there an area of the country that appeals to you more of your sensibilities in that way?
I think going back up to Humboldt County would be a good move if I ever move again. It's a lot greener. They are trained to go see and support theater, and there's a lot of very interesting theater that's going on there. And boy, do I love those trees. And I can walk outside without feeling like the world is trying to kill me every step I take. I think eventually I might end up back there. But for now, for a resting place to move through my mid-20s and learn how to be a real adult where I pay my rent.
And work and live a life.
Yes, this is a good place to learn those lessons.
Do you have any advice for people who might be contemplating a move to the desert? Some things that they should consider besides the heat.
Yes. It's selfish. If you are going to move here, I encourage you to be prepared to be a contributing member of this community, to add to it rather than detract from it. Now, if you want to go be a hermit and be up in the hills, by all means, do what you need to do up there. But when you come into town and you go to our performance spaces, just be prepared to add rather than detract. And that's selfish because I just want a more flourishing community.
Right. Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah, and I think things are better. And then people also have their the flags that they carry. There are many kind of activists in this town for the environment, for dark skies, for keeping the desert parks the same way that they are, for not allowing, corporate interests to infiltrate, particularly Joshua Tree. I feel it's kind of too late for Yucca Valley and probably a little too late for 29 Palms, but Joshua Tree is kind of holding the line on being that unique kind of place where people want to go because it's not like any place that they live or that they can go to on a regular basis. And I don't think that's limited to the landscape and the park. I think a lot of the people who live here add to that character.
Yes.
I enjoy that part of it as much as anything else. I think it just makes it a really interesting and different kind of place.
Because of the people.
Yeah.
If I can amend, I will say one more thing. If you are going to move to Joshua Tree, Instead of coming here thinking, here's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this no matter what, come and observe it for just a little and respond to what is. And if you still do that thing that you came out here dead set to do, great. But allow yourself to take a moment and look at what it is, how it breathes itself, and then see how you play in that. Right. I don't think this is not the kind of place you can strangle into submission, and I pity the person who tries.
Right, not at all. And it's interesting that you should put it that way, because when I did have that moment coming over the hill of stand up and pay attention, and then that for the next 3 months, that nagging of, I think you need to move there. I think you need to move there. I think you need to move there, and doing research and coming out and staying a couple of days or hitting it on my way in, from visiting somebody in Arizona or whatever. There was also a sense of, I feel like I need to be here, and I feel like there's something that I'm going to do here, but I don't really know what that is, but I'm open to whatever it might be. So I would concur with your statement of just kind of hang out and let it breathe a little bit and meet your people and see where you fit in and
then take action.
Right, exactly.
And add.
Right. Add value. Don't just take value. So I have these questions from my niece.
Ooh, how exciting.
Would you like to pick one from the jar?
I would love to.
Answer? Excellent. So here is the jar.
Okay.
This is Emily's jar. She's got one more year of high school going into college, so she's kind of in that space of, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I know what to, relationships, blah, blah, blah. So please read the question.
Okay. How do I pick the right friends, boyfriends, and relationships and not get hurt? Wow.
I think that's the one that broke my heart when I read the ones that she sent. That was the one.
Yeah. Okay. Emily, that's rough. I think, you have to be of two minds. You have to be able to watch a person and understand them as much as possible, to read, is this a person who could potentially hurt me? And make objective decisions based on that. And then you have to throw all that away and choose to be vulnerable no matter what, and try. And then if you get hurt, learn to take care of yourself. I'm 25. She's 17? We're part of the same generation in an era where people don't quite connect on the same level that they used to back in the good old days that I don't remember.
Right. Well, because we didn't have, speaking as one of those people from the good old days, there was no texting. The best we could do is talk on the phone in the kitchen. I'd take the phone down the basement stairs, and, so my parents couldn't hear what I was talking about.
Dear.
If I was even allowed to take a phone call, my mom was like, "What? There's nothing you need to talk about on the phone that you can't talk about at school." And I would reply, "Well, if I talk at school, I'll get in trouble."
Oh, darn.
It didn't work.
Oh, dear.
It didn't work.
Yeah, so we treat each other, and this has been said, as disposable. That happens a lot in our community. So I would encourage Emily, stepping into her early adulthood, to not allow people to treat her that way. And if somebody does, wipe your hands. But if someone comes to the table and wants to be engaged with her and talk to her and get to know her, and they seem genuine, don't let fear hold you back. Throw yourself in, be vulnerable, and engage. That might save the world. If we can get my generation to engage, we might do something. Yeah, but don't let people treat you like crap. That's not...
No.
Don't do it. And it's hard, because it hurts sometimes.
It does.
To say goodbye. But at some point, you have to wipe your hands and say, ciao, see you later. Turn around and say, hello.
Right. And I think it comes to also knowing your worth and knowing that you deserve better than to be treated as disposable, and being secure enough in yourself to be able to walk away and just say, you know what? You're not treating me as I deserve to be treated, so you don't get to have any part of me, and move on.
Oh, but I will say, you will get hurt, Emily. That's awesome. That's part of being alive.
And it's learning.
Yeah. And it's learning.
It's education. Thank you. Is there anything you're reading, listening to, watching on the internet or on TV or pop culture-y things that you're...
I am the wrong person.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm not... Yeah, I don't even have HBO right now, so Game of Thrones is totally going over my head.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I listen to podcasts. I'll say that.
So is there something cool that you're listening to right now that you're really digging?
Yeah. Actually, there was a great 2-part series from a podcast called Reply All, which is from Gimlet. I don't know what that means, but they always...
It's a good drink.
They always say it. Oh, yes, it is. Gimlet Media.
I love lime.
And they do a show about the internet, and they dig deep into odd parts, and this one happened to be about a scam. It was actually about a phone call that they got saying, oh, your Mac has a virus. Please call us back and we'll fix it. And so they called, and they sort of broke it down, and they kept calling and saying, are you scamming me? What are you doing? Talking to them too much, going so far as to talk to these people about, like, well, what video games do you play, man? So then it turns out, I don't want to give it all away, but they end up going to find the call center in India.
Oh, wow.
And meet the person that they had been talking to. It's glorious.
That's amazing.
The storytelling is excellent. Mm-hmm. I like the whole podcast, but this 2-part episode that just came out, I was enthralled.
And it's called Reply All is the name of the podcast.
Like an email.
Yeah.
Reply All. I'll plug that.
They're letting everybody, in on the secrets of the internet.
That's been the coolest piece of art I think podcasts are art.
Yeah.
Darn it.
I hope so.
Oh, they're excellent. That one really got me lately.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I will put that in the show notes. So if anybody's interested in checking that out, don't go and find a pen and, write it down. It'll be in the show notes. You can find it there. I really appreciate you coming and talking about being in the desert. And
it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much for listening to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast. There are a lot of ways you could spend your time, but I'm glad you're here with us. I hope you got some insight and inspiration, and if you did, I hope you'll share it with me and the other listeners on the Desert Lady Diaries Facebook page. If there was something that was mentioned in the episode that you want to follow up on, I'm hoping I captured it in the show notes, which you can find on the blog page on the website, or if you downloaded the podcast, you can find it in the show notes area. Next week, I'm talking to Pamela Goodchild, who talks about the $700 rent increase in LA that was her motivation to come to the desert, find her home and her community, and how taking the chance of making a very serious offer on a funky, artsy home was a leap of faith that made a wish come true. I hope you'll join us.